Alright, this is going to be the last lecture on the tank. So in this lecture we're actually unwrapping the wheels and the back plate behind the wheels. We're going to basically use a couple of different techniques. This is going to be a lot of redundancy because there's a lot of shapes that are very similar to each other. So I'm going to jump right in and get started. Let's go ahead and hide everything other than what I have selected here. And I think what best thing to do is just start with the easiest part first. So I'm going to select this and hide everything else. This shouldn't take but a minute. I'm basically going to select all of these edges. Find one of these bottom edges. Basically choose the same one on both sides because we want to unwrap this symmetrically. And mark seams. Jump over to our UV editing window. Select all and unwrap. The only thing that I can think of that might do this a little bit easier is if I edge select these here and clear those seams. So let's go ahead and try that and unwrapping again. Okay, so we have two patterns that are easy to identify. I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees. Use my vertex snapping to stick these two islands together. Now with the vertex snapping off, I can loop select all of this and basically scale it down or whatever I want to do with it. Go ahead and grab it and move it off to the side. Let's unhide all of this so that I can see what's going on here. I'm going to grab this and move it someplace where it doesn't interfere or nothing's interfering with it. So maybe like right up here for now. So that's basically the back plate of those wheels. That's all done. I'm going to face select a piece of each one of these wheels. Maybe the easiest way to do this is actually if I do a vertex selection, I can just scrape across like this with my lasso. Notice it didn't pick up any of the background, so I'm going to go ahead and link select that. Same thing over here with vertex selection. I'm not really going to catch anything from the back plate that I don't technically want selected, so link select all of that, and now we have all of this stuff selected and hide everything else. Let's jump back to the default window to do this because there's more room. Using vertex selection, I'm going to select every single one of these middle vertices. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because we're going to use follow active quads to unwrap some of the geometry, and the stuff that I'm selecting right now obviously is all made up of triangles, so we're not going to be able to use follow active quads for this. So instead I'm just going to do a regular unwrap on that. So I selected the middle vertex, and now that all the middle vertices are selected, I can hit Control plus sign and it will select all of the faces. Notice I am in vertex selection. I'm going to now change to face selection. So all of these faces have been selected. So let's jump over to the UV editing window, hit U and unwrap. All I need to do here is basically put all of these same size circles together. That shouldn't be really that hard, but it's going to be time consuming, so I'll probably do some of this off camera. So let's turn our vertex snapping on and start snapping these together. Okay, so this is the configuration I came up with for the circles. Notice that it fits fairly nicely inside this square area. That's kind of what I was hoping for. I can scale this down now. It'll hold its shape. I'm just going to move that off to the side as well. I'm just going to go ahead and hide all of that geometry. Now what's left is quads. The only way to really get this done right is to mark seams. So I'm going to go ahead and use my edge selection and go to the bottom view and just mark the same seam on all of these. So I'm looking at the bottom middle seam of all of these shapes. And there's two more shapes I got to concern myself with too, is this right here and this one right here. Same thing on the other side. With all of those edges selected, I'm going to go ahead and mark seam. And one by one, I'm going to have to go and follow active quads on these. Let's start with the top view and we'll work our way around. So select linked, U, reset, U, follow active quads, OK. Not sure which method I should use. I think maybe length. Select all, pack islands, and let's take a closer look here. At this point, I should pay attention to how much I'm scaling this. So I'm going to scale this on the X and hold in on Control and try to find a square area. So this is pretty much what I want. Scale to 0.2 is probably going to work for me. So I do exactly the same thing on all the other pieces. I should end up with the same result. So let's go back to top view and try it again on this one. So reset, follow active quads on length, select all, pack islands, and scale to 0.2 on the X, or in this case the Y because it's turned the other way. I should probably rotate that 90 degrees. So those should be exactly the same. So let's link select both of those and see if they actually stack up. I should be able to snap this together. And they snap nicely. So let's see what that looks like with my color grid. I'm just going to select all of that and scale it up. Well, let me turn my magnet off. It won't scale with the magnet on for some reason. Take a closer look over here. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to undo that so that they remain the same size because I'm going to scale everything up together later. Put this back on UV grid and we'll move on to the next piece. So top view, I want to make sure I do the same thing on both sides. Let's close some of these windows down here. So this piece right here, select linked, U, reset, U, follow active quads on length, back islands. I think I can get away with rotating this 90 degrees. Scale on the X, hit Control, and I think it's going to go to 0.1 this time. Select the opposite side, select linked, U, reset, U, follow active quads, OK. Select this, back islands. I'm going to rotate this 90 and scale on the X to 0.1. So those are exactly the same. So you see where I'm going with this? This is redundant. There's a lot of them to do. So I'll do a lot of them off camera just to make your experience a little less redundant. Okay, so I got all of these now unwrapped. I followed the same exact procedure for all of these. And if I scale this up in size, you can see that the checkerboarding looks pretty good. This one's a little off, so looks like I probably should... I didn't realize that. Let me go ahead and fix that. So link select that. And whatever I do to this, I have to do to the other one. So scale X, hold in on Control, and I'm going to bring it out by 1.8. Okay, take another look around, make sure everything is right. Alright, I did my best to get all of these basically the same symmetrically on each side here. However, look, everything is kind of all stacked up together. So what I'm going to do to fix this is just link select these two, because these two are basically the same, and grab this and just move it away from the other stuff. And do the same thing out here. Just link select these two, grab that and move it away from the other pieces. Same thing again, link select, and just grab that selection and move it off to the side. And just repeat so that I can get all this stuff kind of lined up a little bit better. And basically these two here are the same. So let's grab that and move it. And these two here are also the same. And these apparently are in completely different locations. So I'm going to snap them together. And then move them off to the side. Now I'm a little bit curious about the orientation of the faces and the directions that they're all facing. So I'm going to select all, scale all this stuff up so that you can read everything a little bit better. So these are upside down. So what I can do is rotate 180 degrees on each one of those. Let's go over here. This one is upside down. rotate 180. And this one is upside down. So over here, rotate 180. And they should all be exactly the same now. I'm going to start moving all this stuff closer together. Select all, grab the whole thing, scale it down into the middle here. And let's go ahead and change this back to our UV grid. And that looks much better. I'm going to unhide all. This looks like it's in the way now. I'm just going to go and grab that, move it down here. Let's select all, and now it's time to actually pack our island scales. Let's go ahead and average island scales, and we're almost done here. I'm going to go ahead and select all and scale all of this stuff down to a point where I think it might all fit inside of here. I'm not sure if that's going to do it, but I'm going to try, and if it's wrong, then I'm going to have to scale down a couple of times or scale up until I get everything just right. I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera as well. Alright, so there's my finished texture atlas. And it looks like I have a little bit of extra space there. So let's see what this looks like in our default window. And there it is. There's our finished tank. Ready to start painting on. I'd recommend something like this, increasing the size of the texture atlas. So for example, you could come in here and edit the size to say 2048, for example, by 2048. Notice that as I type these numbers, that all of the UV information is stretching with it. That's because UV, if you think about it, everything is from 0 to 1. That's what this is all about. If you remember the lecture on the sphere, I took a rectangular shape, a long rectangular shaped planet Earth map, and when I applied it, it elongated all of the UV information to fit the rectangular shape. So you can have an odd shaped UV map. It doesn't have to be perfectly square, but all of the UV information will stretch on its 0 to 1 basis. Everything will stretch to accommodate the size of the image that you're painting into. So if you set this up with a much larger image, you'll end up with higher resolution graphics. You can see here the checkerboarding is much smaller. Before it was very large. Now the checkerboard's smaller. If I were to change that again, say 1024, you can see that it gets very big. So 2048 seems to be a better resolution for this much UV information. You can play around with that and see if you can come up with something better. But if you're going to bother texture mapping this, I'd recommend using higher resolution graphics. So that's about it. Did you get this tank unwrapped the same way that I did? Did you follow a different path? It doesn't really matter as long as you understand what's going on. Hopefully you're getting better at this. And don't worry if you're not, we still have a couple more models to work on. Remember to leave your questions in the discussions. And if you go through the trouble of unwrapping this and applying a really nice texture to it, please drop a screenshot of your finished model in the discussions as well, and I'll leave you some feedback, and hopefully other students will do the same. All right, good luck, have fun, and I'll see you in the next lecture.